going on, beautiful creation out there? Episode of Unfabricated coming at you. I am extremely excited. I am extremely excited about this episode. Got a good friend of mine, Mia Hunt, here with us. Introduce yourself.
Hey everybody, Mia. Um, I am currently sitting at home waiting for my son to get tired, but
Doing motherly things.
I'm tired, so
I hear that. See, she's tired and she still came to bless us with her presence, which I appreciate. I know I appreciate that. Thank you, because I ain't gonna underestimate the tiredness that you must be feeling and going through right now, and yet you still bless us with your presence. Thank you, much appreciated.
I appreciate the invite. Thank you.
No doubt, no doubt. Because I feel like, and I invited you in particular. We've had conversations in the past, and I've been having this series, this ongoing conversation about church culture and church trauma, and it's a topic that is uh undervalued or under focused on. I'm losing the word for it right now in our society. It's kind
Both
of like a new thing. Say that again.
underexposed.
Underexposed. Good word. Good word. Before we even dive into it, I wanted to explain this part, that this is not a place where we're going to name names. This is not a place where we're going to make it personal. This is not a place where we're going to talk about a certain person, certain ministry, certain pastor, certain deacons, anybody's names. This is not about that, because the Bible says that our battle's not in flesh and blood. You know what I'm saying? It's not against people, but it's against a system. It's against a principality. It's against something that's not seen. And that's kind of my focus. That's my passion. And so I wanted to create a place, create a safe place for people to come share their stories, share what they've been through, and be able to express themselves without a lot of the ridicule that comes when you start talking about, things that the church doesn't do well. Um, and so if you don't mind, maybe share a little bit about your story as much as you feel comfortable with, like I said, we're not naming names, but as much as you feel comfortable with, share, a little bit of what you've been through, so we could just jump right into it.
Well, I was raised in the church, brought up in the church.
Hmm.
Really, I would say for the first 26 years of my life, that's all I've known. Uh, I I actually was I was encouraged, I would say strongly,
Hmm.
pursue uh my gifting as like in a ministry type of way. I
Uh-huh.
was strongly encouraged to um basically like that's what you have your voice for. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? And I was, you know, I learned early that and it wasn't a correct teaching, but it was something that I kind of used to navigate my way through adolescence and teenagehood and everything.
Right.
You know, if you're singing, people like you. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
Want to be around you. If I
Right.
didn't, in my head, the idea was, you know, very recently, like if I'm not singing, like what am I worth to anybody?
Mm.
And that's I was subconsciously taught through just this very strict way of using my gift. Really no real choice of my own.
Mm.
No real uh way to be like, hey, how about we do this way or that way or whatever. A lot of times I would get to church early, 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday,
We. I remember. I was there too. I remember.
but it is, and then get to the point where, okay, like, are we warming up or, whatever. But it was never really like a very important thing to
Hmm.
protect, our voices or anything like that. And I know now how important that is.
Right.
It is not as easy to sing now that I spent years. not warming up and not doing these things, you know, because really, like everything was very like on the clock. Like everything was just like
Hmm.
we got a performance to put on. Really, like
Yeah.
it was only with so many words, but you know, it's showtime and it's
Yeah.
always showtime. It never ended. The show never ended.
Hmm. That's interesting. The show never ended. There's two. I want to talk about that real quick because that is important. But you said subconsciously taught. What does that mean? Explain that
So
for somebody who might not understand that.
it was not something that the idea of who's gonna like me was not something that I put it that was put in my head verbatim or through
Mm.
somebody, but it was always by the treatment that I was receiving and that many of my friends were receiving. So a lot of the pattern that I dealt with was, this is important. You singing is very important. This is your
Mm.
life. You need to understand that. You are a priest, and they were going to Leviticus and start telling me about this is your priestlyhood, like
Mm.
you're, and it was just like that's the most important thing about you. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And then that kind of puts like this, a little bit of frantic, concern in my head because it's just like, man, what if I lose my voice? What if I can't make it? What if I get sick? I did
Mm.
get sick at one point. I got very sick. Actually, I couldn't sing, talk, walk, anything. And I was down for a few months. I couldn't sing or anything. And I was just like, man, I'm going to die here. Like, I'm just, I mean,
Right.
physically, I was actually like in a position where I could have died.
Mm.
But inside, I was just like, man, like, you know, I don't feel like this is really, you know, I've got
Oh.
a point in my life and now I got sick and it's, freak coincidence that this happened. But it's like, I was praying, like, God, like, make me better. Please let me go
Mm.
fast because this is not, I'm 18 years old and this is the life that I'm in a bed and I can't talk. And people are coming in here visiting me and they think that I'm a vegetable right now. And
Mm.
in my brain, I could hear everything. My brain was processing it perfectly, but when it was sending the signal to speak or to walk or to breathe, I was having trouble because it was like a lag going on,
Right.
my brain.
So so it's kind of like, if I'm hearing you right, and correct me if I'm wrong, like your value system that you had was totally dependent upon your talents.
Yeah, it
Am I conceptualizing that right?
depended on my talents, and then any bad thing that happened after that was a crushing blow. You know what I mean? Like this is important, and now I can't do it.
Mm.
This is all I got, and now I don't got it. You know what I mean? This
Wow.
is what keeps me from, being treated like the bottom of the barrel. And now that's where I'm at. I'm sick. You know, my friends from church did come and visit me, like my real friends. Actually, uh, the entire group of kids that we all ministered together, they all came to. But it was like a very quick, like in and out. You could tell that it was just like we have to go see Mia.
Yeah.
Kids was there like rolling their eyes and stuff, like they didn't want to be there. I didn't want to be there. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So what 16 to 19 wants to be standing in the ICU
Right.
looking at somebody they know like just kind of withering, and that was sad and everything, and then, I got better,
Mm.
uh, and when I got better it was semi better. I was recovering.
Mm.
As soon as they saw that I was standing and I was in the building, I was on stage.
Huh.
So no
I,
rest from that point, no real like recovery once doctors like declared like, okay, you're okay to go home and recover now. So mind you, I still really couldn't walk well. I couldn't really speak clearly, but they were like, well, you're here, you're
mhm.
here. and God heals you and you have to sing because that's your testimony. It wasn't even like, hey, tell people what happened. No, we'll tell it. And then you just come behind us and sing. Well, two of your friends stand on the side of you and hold you up while you're
Mm,
singing because we know that if you stand by yourself, 9 times out of 10, you're going to fall because I
interesting.
couldn't stand, you know?
And I remember there was this guy, and you probably, I'll tell you off air his name because we're not going to say names, but he had came around the church, and I remember he was like the new toy at church, right? Like he was charismatic, he was funny, and so right away they put him on stage and was having him do all kinds of jokes and be all charismatic, and I had to pull him aside, and I was like, beware of the play monkey play.
Yes.
I said,
I,
beware of the play monkey play.
I've been saying play, monkey, play for like the past 40, maybe 72 hours because I've literally heard that in so many different ways. Something
Yeah,
that, like, in my own mind, like I'm just like, man, I'm like a chimpanzee with some tambourines over.
yeah.
What is
Play monkey.
and how am I still here doing this? And I just spoke to somebody. Well, it was like a quick, like little encounter, but I was just like, man, like it's almost like a Stockholm syndrome. You know,
Mm,
like, this is sick. This is sick behavior. Like I should not be up here with a cane, or not even a cane. I had a walker. I should not be up here with a walker trying to entertain people.
mm,
I'm well, you know what I'm saying? And I know that the kind of like the brainwashing of it all is really like wasn't just influential on young minds. Like my parents thought it was a good idea for me to be there.
mm.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. It runs deep.
It runs so deep, and it's something. Another thing I was like thinking about today is like my parents, before everything they were on drugs and stuff like that, and they were raised a certain way before getting on drugs, and getting off of drugs and coming into salvation and everything like that. But at that point, they were being raised again.
Hmm.
I feel like my parents, personally, I would say my parents were raised twice. And that second raising was more of like fear mongering and stuff all added together, along with like, look what God did for you.
Mm,
Your legacy has to be that you served him because he got you off of drugs, and your children did the same. And
right.
that was just life. If when I got sick, and my mother could tell you, like, she didn't even believe me because it fell on a Sunday.
Mm,
And so,
yeah. Yeah.
of course, you're sick. It's time to go to church. And I'm like, man, I go to church every single day almost. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
Sundays, I'm in the building almost every day. And, I'm sick. And, like, my father really had to, like, hey, snap out of it. She's not well.
Hmm.
And we got to take her to the hospital. Like, churches can wait.
Right. It's funny because it's so, like you said, and that's why I liked when you said in the beginning, like the subconscious teaching
Yeah.
that happens, right? Because what happens is you get saved and you're this vulnerable, you're a baby again.
Yeah.
And that's how they present it, because that's what it is. You're a baby again. You don't know anything. So you believe whatever's taught to you. And
Yeah.
it is subconscious because you believe what you see, you believe what you learn, you believe behaviors, you believe because you're just so happy. And I know for myself, and I always say how ashamed I am a lot of the times because a lot of the cultural disrespect that I
Yeah.
endured, because I just wanted to fit in. You understand what I'm saying? Like I was just happy to be here. So
Yep.
I'm like, damn, like, they're calling me Black Chris and making black jokes, and I'm just like, ha ha ha, like with this nervous kind of like this, it don't feel right. But because I just want to fit in and be a part of this new culture, I'm gonna let it slide, or I'm gonna reprogram my own mind to allow this to be okay.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, that what you learned at that point, that lasted, man. Like, a lot of the rest of us after were in that same position and same place where it's just like, man, these microaggressions getting a little macro. These microaggressions getting
They're getting
big.
bigger.
Okay. And then
It's
it's like,
true.
what do you do? Like, am I supposed to tell my leader right now that, hey, that was racist?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's true. And so, like, it to me, like you said, it's that subconscious, subtle teaching that happens, right? And
Little by
so, little by little. So I know for me, the way I can relate to what you're saying is they would say things like, "Oh, the Lord's Knights, which was my old rap group. Oh, they need a black guy," and laugh about it. And so, like in my mind, it's almost like, man, is that true? Like, am I just the token black guy in this group? I know it wasn't because nobody in the Lord's Knights was racist or anything like that.
no,
But you say it enough, and you start to feel like it's true.
it wasn't them though. They were not in charge of that, decision of having the token, but you were.
That's how I felt. Like I brought the street cred to the Lord's Knights. Like I ain't no thug. I don't know me like that.
I'll only say that because of this. Like, y'all were like the trailblazers, right? Every rap
Not
group that,
really. CTMCs, I got to give them that.
oh,
That was the CTMCs that were the trailblazers. We came after them.
so, but I will say this, like each one of these groups had
Hmm.
at
Had to have
least
a black guy. Had to have a black guy. But it's
included, and and the only reason I can, yeah, I'm pinpointing this part is because I remember, uh it's actually like really painful to remember, but because my brother never complained about it or nothing like that, really.
mm,
But I have a friend that went to the church with us, and he came up with us after we were already like young adults. So that's when he got there, and he could rap really well. And my brother was in the military, and became the the next token. Uh,
ah.
and they said it to him, "Hey, you're the new buddy. You're the new Cal."
Oh wow.
What?
Microaggressions. Yeah.
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 And really, what are you trying to say though? We always gotta have a black guy. What? What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If this not as gifty as you thought. No, I'm just
Right.
kidding.
Right.
But it's like that's that's wild. That's wild behavior to me. Like, you you're ministering, and this is like a very real concept that is in the minds of just people that are raised up around just the behavior,
Mm.
not even saying it, not even, you know, having outbursts of racism. Just little
Yeah.
micro.
It's not outbursts.
It adds up.
It
You
does. You know what's funny is so I went through the whole being popular thing in church, and you feel like you have a lot of friends, right? Like you feel like everybody loves you. You feel like you got this whole community that has your back, right? And so I go through my great fall, whatever
know,
you want to call it, right?
until.
Until that's a good way to that's a great way to put it right there. I'm stealing that. Until.
Uh huh.
So have all these quote unquote friends.
Yeah.
And then I get sick, not literally, but I guess spiritually, whatever you want to, morally, whatever you want to call it, I
Uh huh.
get sick and I fall, right?
Yeah.
And my marriage goes through all the stuff that it goes through. And again, this is not me passing the buck. I made my mistakes. I put myself in my position. But I felt like for me, friendship isn't about what I do and don't do. You understand what I'm saying? Friendship was not supposed to be about my morals. Friendship wasn't supposed to be about, whether or not I made good decisions or bad decisions as far as my own morality, right? Like if you called me a friend, then that's something that I considered and this is where my church, some part of my church trauma came in, where I felt like my friendships in my mind was something that could not be broken, right?
Right.
And so when I went through what I went through, and I found myself in a bad spot, I noticed people wasn't really looking for Christian.
So, all right, I have a question because what you're saying is very familiar to me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Mostly because I've dealt with it up and down over and over again from childhood through to adulthood. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So there was a lot of times where, okay, Mia got in trouble. You guys can't hang out with her. You can't talk to her. You can't go get pizza. Y'all can't do none of these things after this. Y'all can't see each other even during the week. Mia, do not go to her job and see her after school like you normally do. You know,
Mm-hmm.
now you guys are separated until Mia could get right. And this
Exactly.
over and over and over again, even up all the way up until I got married, not married, I got pregnant with my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I started to see the actual real effects of this type of, not only like treatment, but it's like this gossip. I
Yeah.
was actually scheduled to be go on tour with a gospel Christian rapper. Um, People were not really aware. There was not many people that knew I was pregnant at that point. I hadn't opened up to about it,
Mm-hmm.
um, but few people knew, and the ones that knew were, talking to this rapper, talking to the pastors, and now they're on, three-way calls, having private conversations about me and about my
Mm-hmm.
morals. And why would you guys, let me schedule her? She doesn't have any morals. How is she pregnant and she's not married? And what is her walk with God like? And none of your business, but you know, that's
Yeah.
really where, and to the point that now my ex-husband has to confront this.
Mm.
Now I'm further along, I'm trying to get these questions answered, and I get to the point where the same rapper invites me to a session to write for his album that was coming out, and he wanted me to write a song about a one night stand. And
Mm.
the girl that got pregnant, I'm like, why? I was the only female writer there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm asking, why am I assigned this one? He was like, oh, just want to see what you could do with it. I said, what do you think I can do with it? He was like, all right, I was just testing you because this and that. I said, so if you got something to ask me, like you need to ask me instead of talking on
Yeah.
the phone with these two other grown men about me, because that makes no sense, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and I just split, parted ways with this person at this point because I was just like, if you can't come up to me straight and just ask me, because I'm not going to lie, you can ask
Yeah.
me,
Yeah.
but you're sitting here with two other people talking about me over the phone and talking about my morals. Why don't you ask me how my walk with God is? Why don't you ask me what my morals are? You know what I'm saying? Like, this was something that it was just like, man, you're not even giving me no type. You don't even know how this pregnancy happened.
Mm.
Really?
Mm.
I'll do. This
Yeah.
could have a different way. And y'all don't even know because you don't ask. You're sitting there assuming and gossiping, really.
You know what's amazing about that, and you said it, like the isolation part, right?
Yeah.
So you find like you fall, you sin, and I can get into the whole moral garbage that goes on into the church, but I don't want this to be a 3 hour talk because I can get into that. We ain't gonna do that. But you find yourself in a place where, first of all, we're all effing human. I'm not gonna curse on this podcast because I just, I know a lot of people listen to it, but we're all human, and we all are told we're human, and we're all told, and this is the subtle thing that you were talking about that I loved how you said it, because you're told you're not perfect, but in reality, it's like you got to be perfect. Like, oh, you're not perfect, but
But
not f up.
that, like, you have to understand, like, that's a grooming tactic.
Mm,
It is a mental breakdown and fake rebuilding, but it's not. You're at that point, your confidence and everything is made out of like rice paper.
yeah, yeah.
You know? But you know, Zeke, unlock this door. So, it gets to a point where it's like, man, these are are these my thoughts about myself, or did somebody put this here?
Yo, that is amazing. You said that. Talk about that right there, because that is such a real feeling.
It's
It's hold on before you. It's like an out of body experience because it's like a battle that goes on within. Go ahead.
yes, it's almost, for me. It got to a very drastic point because I was very depressed. Um, you know,
Without knowing it though, I was depressed and didn't know it. But go ahead. I'm sorry. I keep cutting you off. I'm sorry.
no, right? It, it's true though, because I was so depressed. Like, at 16, I attempted suicide,
Mm,
and I overdosed on some pills. And the the second teaching that I was talking about, my parents, who know what to do when somebody overdoses because they were on drugs for years, instead of taking me straight to the hospital, took me to the church,
mm,
prayed for me for an hour while I still had these drugs. And you know, right now, as at my age now, I'm 32. At that point, I was 16. This is another lifetime that has passed, and I feel sad for my parents. I feel sad that they didn't have like any independent strength within them to be like, this is the right thing to do.
mm,
You know what I mean? Like, at one, when I got sick a few years later, I think my dad had learned the lesson,
mhm.
because, like, man, when she was 16, we took her to the church when we should have taken her to the hospital. You know, and once that happened, when I was sick, when I was 18, he just knew right away, like, this is not a game, this is not a joke, and prayer right now is cool where it is. We do not need to bring her to the prayer. We need to bring her to a doctor
Yeah, yeah.
before she dies. This is not a joke. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
if dad was, he was doing all the, the going through the motions with me, as I'm like, I wasn't even there. Like, I don't even know what happened before we got to the church. But when we got to the
Mm,
church, I remember being there. I remember the whole time there and going to the hospital after that.
right.
And it was just so weird to me that they thought that I needed to sit in the worship service and I needed to go next door and sit with the prayer band. I did not understand, like, how come I'm not in the hospital yet? You know?
Mm,
And it was like embarrassing because I'm throwing up, I'm sick and all my friends are there.
wow.
Everybody's looking at me. And I'm just like, man, I hope this kind of works. I'm embarrassed. Like, I'm just like, oh, what, why am I here? This is not the place where you bring sick people, you know, physically sick people in emergencies,
Yeah.
you know. And, I just feel so bad that that's what my parents, not that they resorted to it. Like, that was their first choice to do because that was what they were taught to do. Like, this is more important than anything. And it was like, after that, I started hearing a lot more of like, oh, your home is the first ministry. But for me, in my mind and my heart and stuff like that, I just felt like, well, it's too late. Like, y'all showed me what is your priority over
Mm,
me. You know what I'm saying? And they taught you how to put that over us, over your family, over your kids. You know what I mean? I used to have a real rough time with my dad. Like, me and him were very close, but we fought a lot because I was just like, man, you love your job more than you love being a dad, you know? More than you wanted us so bad, and then now you got us and you just leave all the time. Like, that's all
mm.
you All you do is church. All you do is somebody else's church. All you're doing is church. And if we do something together, guess what it is? It's church.
It's church.
I
Yeah.
thing with you too when you know, man, I'm churched out. Like y'all birthed me in this building, basically.
Mm,
I want to go home. I want to go somewhere else. You know what
yeah.
I'm saying? Like I'm tired. They're working me the same way they work you. And it wasn't until maybe 2 weeks before my father passed away that he was like, please just don't let your loyalty make you a slave. Because I did that
Mm,
all these years after I got off drugs, and I have nothing to show for it except I was their show horse,
mm.
verbatim.
Ooh.
And that broke my heart. And my father passed away 2 days later. Like he couldn't talk the next day. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the last piece of advice I got from him.
Say it again. Don't let your loyalty make you a slave.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's very important for my father. I don't know, how many people know like close up his condition when he was sick and when he was dying was like very bad. He had to take breaks between words to put his tank back on and all of that, his oxygen. He was not in good shape at all, but he was just very adamant on making sure that he got that to me. And it was like a random day. I believe it was actually my birthday when he told me this. And he passed away 2 days after, I mean, not 2 days, 2 weeks after that.
Wow.
It, I knew that I wasn't like bugging at that point. I was just like, okay, see, this is not normal. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? Like now he's at his end and he wishes that he did it different.
Yeah. I remember,
Go ahead.
not to cut you off, I'm sorry, but I remember that moment where that slave mentality broke. I felt guilty. I
Yes.
remember that first, I never forget that first day where I was home and said, I'm not going to church today. And I felt like the worst person on the face of the planet. And I remember feeling so good not going and taking that time for me because
Yeah.
I hadn't given myself that time in at least 15 years. And so with that first, and this is not me advocating people not going to church. Please don't take it that way. This is about the mentality that I had, not the actual action. This is the mentality that what she just said, that loyalty that made me a slave. I'm talking about that first moment where those shackles of loyalty to a building fell off. It was the most confusing feeling in the world because I felt free, but I felt guilty because I felt like I'm not supposed to be doing this.
Yeah. You
So,
programmed to feel that guilt.
right, right. And so I wanted to kind of jump into because you hit on something, and I know for me, right, like when my marriage was going through it, we were going not to marriage counseling like with a real marriage therapist who actually has a degree and was taught the way that a mind works. We were actually sitting with regular, and there's nothing wrong with this in and of itself. If it's coupled with real therapy, like a real doctor, then there's nothing wrong with church counseling. But all we had were people telling us how our marriage can be better. And usually it was focused on some kind of moral issue that I had, right? And so I'm not going to go into it all because it's private, but there was always this manipulation because my ex-wife already had a persona. So the persona was that I was the big issue, and it wasn't really about who was, you know, right and wrong, but I was sitting there like, wow, I have some gripes and I have some things that need to be fixed. And it wasn't something that was considered important. And so I sat there and it's like, man, God, I don't feel like I have a voice here.
Yeah.
Like I feel trapped. I feel like I'm drowning. I know I own and I want to own the stuff that I did.
Yeah.
But there were things and there were reasons in my mind for the reasons that I did the things that I did.
Yeah.
And so, if you're just going to focus on the things that I did, the reasons don't get fixed. But the people who you have that are supposed to teach me this, to be fair to them, don't know themselves.
And you also isolated me from them. So now I can't go to my peers who are also married and maybe going through something similar as me, because you told them that every time I come this way, y'all better turn around and go the other way. Don't talk to her until she gets married. You know what I'm saying? And it's
Right?
like, my friends are already married. Like, why you won't let them talk to me? And like, we could find some ground where we all kind of understand a little bit more what's going on and what we're getting into,
You know
because
what's crazy?
we get that type of point of view.
So I was the culprit, right? So I was the culprit a lot of the times, and I can like I said, it's stuff that I'm ashamed of because
Mhm.
I was the leader. I was a leader. I was in a prominent position. I had the ears of the pastors, and I was at their right hands for a lot of the stuff. And so sometimes they would send me when a teen would be, in a moral decline or whatever. I'd be the one to have to talk to them, and I'd be the one sometimes to have. And I was trained myself. It was the notion of it's harder to pull somebody down than it is to pull somebody up. So whenever somebody is in sin, you don't want to hang around them because they're going to pull you into their sin faster than you're going to be able to influence them. And it's this whole teaching, like I said, you're a baby, so you receive it, right? Like it's like, all right, well, you're the pastor, so that has to be true. And the fact of the matter is that like you said, we isolate these people who are having whatever issues that they're having. And I even use the word issue lightly because, like, really, you're a teenager. Like, your
Right.
hormones is raging. So like I said, I don't want to make this a 3 hour talk.
Science type of thing that's happening. It's called, biology and
Yeah, like I don't want to even go into all of that, but you know what I'm saying? Like you're sitting here now. I have to talk to somebody, and then I remember there was this young man. And like I said, I'm not going to say no names, but he
yeah.
was having sex with his girlfriend, and he came to me. And he was like, "Yo, I keep falling with my girl. I keep falling with my girl." And eventually, I was like, "Yo, you got to stop having sex with your girl, or else we can't even chill no more because you're in sin." And I don't want my Holy Spirit to be affected by your sin or whatever, because the Holy Spirit is sensitive to sin, and it's going to leave if I'm a, it like this whole training
But
that
that's
puts.
like what you were saying yesterday about how, with the substitute cursing and stuff,
Mhm.
you know, where it's like, okay, like you're telling this younger person that you're kind of like mentoring in a way, you can't do that because now I can't chill with you and we can't chill together because I cannot get this contagious thing.
Yeah, the contagious of sin.
The contagious sin, right? But also, had you found out that it was a leader of yours doing that, you could not correct him.
Exactly.
You could not correct him without getting stepped down and put, on the side and put into like, don't embarrass nobody. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not your place
The cover up.
to
We got to cover the leaders.
there it is.
We
That's
got
the
to
part,
cover the leaders.
you
This
know?
is what I'm talking about. And this is the trauma that I mean that this stuff really has. Because this kid that I'm talking about, he fell away and he never came back.
Yeah. It's
He never came back.
when you think about it, because I look at it like, okay, not only is it uh all of this is going on, and now cause the isolation that I experienced was my friends. I think I only really had two friends that stuck around and didn't listen to the whole, you know, don't talk to her or don't deal with her until she makes this right. And making it right was, well, you're pregnant, get married.
Mm,
They were saying things to us like, if you don't get, or saying to my ex-husband, if you don't get married, the baby's not is gonna have her last name and not yours.
mm.
And like just like real fear things, fear mongering type of things. And I'm like, man, why
Right.
are you telling him this? Like you act like babies don't have their dad's last names and they're not married to their moms all the time. You act like that doesn't happen every single day.
Mm,
A baby's name can be changed. That's why you fill out the form for a birth certificate.
yeah.
And it's like not fair that that was the premise of it's a good idea that you guys get married. here is our foundation of fear. If
Mm,
you get married, it's not gonna be good. And it's like, man, it bothers me a lot because even my ex husband's leaders that he was dealing with didn't tell him until after we got married, like, you guys can raise a baby without being married. Well, too late because don't
yeah.
nobody got, no way of reversing this. You know what I'm saying? Like, we got to that point and realized, like, very early on, like, man, this did not work, and we might have done something off the wrong emotion.
Mm,
You know what I'm saying? And it's like, it got bad. It got worse. But I was being confronted towards the end of my marriage, like, you're a worship leader. You should not be getting divorced. You need to ask God to work this out. You need to sleep with him because God is not going to be able to fix this if you don't.
mm,
You need to work this out with him so that you can glorify God on the platform without any weight or baggage of this divorce hanging over you. And I'm like, okay, so what if I were to mention that there has been uh physical altercations?
mm.
Crickets. Complete silence. I actually never heard from this pastor again after I asked him that question.
Mm.
No answer, nothing. And it was just like, I'm so embarrassed that you're getting divorced. Me, I'm embarrassed.
I'm
I'm embarrassed
embarrassed you're getting
that
divorced.
you're getting divorced because you
Yeah.
are a representation of me up there, and now you're getting divorced. I said, okay, well, I'm also getting, into fights
Yeah.
at home. So, what do you got to say about that one?
You know what's funny, right? I was talking to a pastor and he was asking me, he was like, Christian, how do I stop and prevent church trauma from happening? Right.
Mm,
And he was like, he was genuine. I don't want to be that pastor that perpetuates church trauma. And so he went on to tell me about a member in his congregation who was the drummer in his church who had an affair.
mhm.
And he said, he had an affair, and I was so angry. I'm so angry at him for having an affair. And I'm like, let me stop you right there. Why are you angry at him? Why?
That's what
This
I was.
has nothing. His affair has nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
Oh, but I'm so embarrassed. You're embarrassed because you think this church is yours.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's
This
like,
church is not
well,
yours. If you're a pastor, then this church is God's, and all you're doing is being a mouthpiece and a conduit as to who God is. So if somebody falls or if somebody's in sin, that has nothing to do with you. You have no right to be angry over that. One, God's not angry. That's one. Let's start there. God is not bound by sin. He defeated it.
yep.
Sin is defeated. So why do we give it so much power? Why is it the central point of everything that we do? Why is it the barometer of everything about our Christianity when the Bible is clear that when Jesus died, death lost its sting?
Yes.
Sin's supposed to be defeated. So why are you mad that your drummer fell? Because he made you look bad. Because this church is really about you. And
And
it's
that's
subconscious.
so here's what happened. It goes almost like actually perfectly with what you're saying. As I was coming up, I know you remember we used to do like stewardship
Mhm.
requirement before you join ministry.
Yes, I remember.
And that changed when I was 14 and a new pastor came into play. It went from stewardship to Christian life. Now this pinpointed topic is now muddled down with everything else that you want to add to it, which can also be part of like Christian preference and things like that,
Mm,
and it's not necessarily all biblical things,
mhm,
necessarily all biblical ways to conduct yourself. When it comes to ministry, I feel like stewardship is the main thing that you should be focusing on
mm,
because then if you truly were, you would understand that Rotations need to happen because people need rest. People need physical, emotional, and spiritual rest, which means, you know how many times that we will be like prepping for or serving on a
Mm-hmm.
Sunday and have to be just kind of very aware and alert of just different cues within the service, which means that we couldn't really focus on what was being talked about.
Mm-hmm.
You
I
know, it
remember.
it wasn't like uh, you know, you're here, you're serving, and then you could go sit down and really take in what's being said. No, you're here serving, you're on watch, you gotta keep up with everything because if somebody speaks in tongues, you gotta be able to get up on that mic. If somebody
Mm.
you gotta be paying attention, you gotta be sharp, you gotta be this and that. And this is what I was told for years, over and over and over by, my leader, to the point that it got, church was like a job. And when I was doing
Not
really,
like it was.
yeah, it was, no, it was like, because I was not getting paid. I don't know about you.
True, touche, touche. You right.
I am still owed money to this day. Okay. And I mean, and it could come off like in a joking way or whatever, but I'm very serious. Like, it got to the point where we were now building this team of singers and writers, and we were just on our hilly hill. You know what
Mm.
I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, all right, we're gonna do this. We're gonna get this music out. We're gonna, and we were just kind of becoming one of those like, church company singers. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
To the point where now we're writing. Now we're actually having songs put out. Now we're having full on concerts. Now we're doing all of this stuff, and it's like this is real. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're not writing songs just so the church can enjoy. Like, everybody in the world is coming to a conference now
Yeah.
to hear this new album from our group. And got to the point where, okay, now we're at the business side of everything. Now, everybody give me your, information. Do you have some type of copyright program that you use to, so that you could get your royalties? We did
Mm.
all that. Everybody sat in the group and did that. And then a few weeks later, we find out that that money that was made off of these sales was stolen by the same leader who told us that we got to be sharp and on point and
Mm.
this and that. And that to me, he did that to me personally
Mm.
twice. He did it when I was 16. He did it again when I was 25. No, 20. Yeah, 25.
Mm.
Um, and also was involved in a whole lot of uh, you know, sexual harassment, um, sexual abuse. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was very difficult. And it was something that it was just like, man, when the abuse happened or the harassment and abuse happened, I was younger, like maybe
Oh.
17, uh, maybe around 17 years old. When all of that shifted into adulthood, now I have a child, now I'm married, I'm writing these songs. And I'm just trying to just make the ends meet so that I can just take care of my baby
Mm.
and, hopefully get us into a better situation than we were in. Uh, because our apartment was also rented to us, you know, through the influence of the church, and it was just a slum apartment,
Mm.
like really not safe for children to sleep in because there were like they gave me an apartment that had maybe like this much, a layer of like mouse droppings in the oven.
Oh my God.
And it got to the point where I had to like, can we get a new oven in here? I'm not cleaning that one. And two, you have very bad rodent infestation. You need to get this oven out of here. Like, my baby's here. I have to
Yeah.
cook to, feed her. And it was very belittling
Mm-hmm. Because you
because
should just be grateful, right?
be grateful. We gave you a card where you can, and it wasn't a card. We gave you our Uber account, our
Mm,
business Uber account. Now it's in your phone and you can travel back and forth to church or to get groceries. That was it. Those are the two places that I went with this card because I was just too afraid to use it for anything else. You know,
mm,
I was nervous. I was always like on edge and I was hungry too. You know what I mean? Like I was at that point like we had just stopped being homeless and got into this, apartment that was just really horrible and money was bad, no jobs and a baby, and I was hungry. And so I was like, well, I know I could eat at church. So even though I don't want to go to church anymore, even though I'm very tired, even though I've been singing for my whole life and everything is going to hell right now, I'm going to get up and I'm going to go to church so that I can eat and so that my baby can eat.
mm,
It was just like, it became like a sing for your supper type of thing for me. And it was
mm.
very belittling and just made me feel like not a person, you know? Just did not feel like they looked at me as a human being, maybe ever. It was just like, you're human enough to be up there, but you're not human enough for us to like really care about, what's happening in your life for real. Why are you 16 years old trying to commit suicide? Why are you 15 years old running away from home? Why are you 17 years old and having a miscarriage? Why are these things happening to you? Why are y'all seeing all these patterns, not stepping in to find out how
Right,
you help my 16-year-old child self?
right, right,
You know, why
right,
is it? And then the thing that really like bothered me more than anything was just, why are y'all still doing this?
right,
There's 16-year-old girls behind me about to do the same. Why are y'all not paying attention?
right.
Or what are you paying attention to?
Mm-hmm.
What's important?
Yeah, yeah. To kind of bring that into perspective, right? Because there's a verse in the Bible, and it's over another overly familiar verse when Jesus met the woman at the well, because people will be like, oh, well, Jesus confronts sin. Look at the woman at the well. He told her that she was divorced 5 times and needed to change her life. And they forget a big part of that.
Right.
They forget the part, one, Jesus didn't just go find this woman and start telling her about her sin.
Yeah.
Right? It wasn't like, hey, you come here. You've been divorced 5 times. You need to change that. And then he walked off and said, I'm the Lord.
Right.
That's how it goes. That's how it goes in
I'm
their
the
head.
Lord.
Right. That's how it goes. That's how it goes in their head.
Right.
But realistically, what happened was, first of all, the woman came to him. That's the first distinction. The
Exactly.
woman came to him. She started the conversation. And then before Jesus started to go off into her past, he asked her a question first. And so what that tells me is that Jesus was interested in her life.
Yes.
He was interested. Before they got to the sin, because when the pastor asked me, how do we tackle not traumatizing people? His other question was, when do we hold people accountable for what they do? Right? And so my answer was, that's not your job.
Exactly.
Simple. That's not your job. And pastors seem to have this backwards because we have this whole fire and brimstone thing. Oh, we don't want no Joel Osteen Christians, all these powder puff Christians. We want to be fire and brimstone and we want to confront sin and blah, 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 blah. But again, like I said, they missed the part where you first need to be interested in somebody's life before you can correct them.
Yeah.
When you take that interest, when you show somebody that you actually care,
Right.
meaning that when they aren't lovable, don't
Right.
just love them when they're singing and people are flooding the churches because they want to come see the talent that you're getting for free. Don't just love them when they're able to give you their lives. Love them when they can't.
Yeah.
Show
It,
that interest genuinely in their lives.
yeah.
I'm
I,
sorry.
I actually like had that in my head earlier today because somebody told me like, oh, growing up, when we were growing up, your voice is beautiful, yeah, and everybody says that you are anointed and everything, but you just look so miserable up there.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
was never, it never looked like that was where you wanted to be.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yep.
like, yeah, that's where people
Yep.
wanted me. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
it was very, like, there was no other option for me to the
Right.
point where my brother had all these options. And I
Mm.
told him today, I was like, I feel like my older siblings were like a shield for for me, like the type of things that they went through when y'all were on drugs, I didn't have to go through.
Right.
But the things that I went through as a chosen whatever the heck, whoever they said that I was supposed to be, was like a shield
Mm.
for my brother, because my brother can do anything he wants. And I'm not saying that in like a resentful type of way. Like I'm not saying like he gets away with it. I'm saying my brother has the opportunities to use each and every gift he has. Singing, dancing, rapping, acting, everything, modeling, all types of things, because when they saw my talent, they were like, "Oh, she can sing. She has to sing."
Mm.
When they
That's
saw
who
him.
your identity is. Who I say you are. You sing, so you're a singer.
So my brother was born, we grew up singing together. We could harmonize and
Hmm.
cute stuff, and we dressed alike, and it was cute, right? And then he could move his arms around or do something else.
Hmm.
Like, oh, he can sing and dance. Let's throw him into all the performing arts. You know what I mean? So that means that he was able to hone his craft. That means he was able to perfect, his style and do and me, I have very basic skills as far as for the times. So like my singing has not gotten better over the years. It's good, but it's not like a skill that I've learned to do something else with this. I mean, not yet anyway. I will. You know what I mean? But it's
I
like
believe it.
I was not in a position to, I just felt like the fallback kind of was on me, and then he got like the rest of the good stuff. You know what I mean? And I feel like the really bad stuff that my brother and sister went through, they went through it, and I got, better. So I just kind of look at it like, man, what was it? Like, did y'all not see the value in my brother, or did do I not really have the value that you say I do? You just need another
Mm.
stand. You know what I mean? Like that was in my mind for a long time. Like it took me up into my adulthood and going to therapy, and I only been in therapy since September last year. And thank God I did, because like I was always like, trying to find a way to not be angry at my parents for not protecting me,
Mm.
or protecting me too late. Like my mother, up until now, like she's just recently uh looking at things in a way that a protective mother would. Back then, and I really had to understand this through therapy. Like my mom dealt with so much before my dad actually got saved. Uh Before she got saved, she was dealing with drugs and had kids, had my dad on drugs, and now it's like he's off drugs, he's clean, and he's singing in the church, and he's doing all of these things, and he's healthy, and he looks great, and they look great together, and everybody's just like, yes, you prayed and this happened, and my mom was in complete bliss.
Mm.
And I feel like I understand that had my mom disclosed certain abuses and things that happened to me as a little child, like 6 years old, had she exposed him to my dad, like I would not have had a dad in my life. Like I know for a fact my father would have gone to jail
Mm.
for the things that happened to me as a little kid. Um and I'm sort of grateful that I understood her not wanting that to happen at that
Right.
age. I'm glad that I understood it at 6 enough to be like, okay, mommy's telling me that somebody's gonna get in trouble, so let me just be quiet. But being quiet did not help. I
Mm,
really feel like the main focus of everything right now should be that the covering up, that's what's not allowing the cycles to stop.
mm. You know what? I think that's a good place to kind of bring this home, is that the covering up is not allowing the cycles to stop. And if there's anything that I can say, because I know that there's a lot of people who might hear this and might listen to this who are dealing with their own trauma. The thing about church trauma is it's confusing as hell. It is the most confusing thing to go through, because your logic and your natural defense systems are telling you one thing, but your training tells you another, and then they clash in the
Yeah,
middle, and you don't know what to do with it, because you're told one thing, but you feel like it's not making sense. And so all I will say is this. Go ahead. What are you saying?
no, I was just saying, like, your feelings even make you feel guilty. And you're just like, is it normal for me to feel like this? Because why do I?
Right.
If you're telling me that this is wrong and I shouldn't feel like this, it's an unattainable goal.
Right. And that's
That
the thing. That's the thing, is that the goal that is set upon us, it's not the goal that we set. The goal that is set upon us is unattainable. The goal that's set upon pastors, and
yes,
that's why it's set upon us, because it
yep,
comes from the top down. The goal that is set upon pastors is not realistic. One man cannot carry the whole weight of a congregation, and it is not your job to carry their morality. Your job is to simply pass along the word of God. Point blank, period, end.
yep.
Point blank, period, end. When
And
you
you,
start going into feeling responsible for what a person does and doesn't do, and you have to carry your own morality, that is unattainable. It's unrealistic, and it is the reason why we are fractured right now.
yeah, because why? Because the fish rots from the head, and it trickles down. That be like behavior. I remember a few years ago there was a pastor that actually committed suicide. You know what I mean? And people were just like, well, why wasn't anybody paying attention, watching, and this and that? Is because we are so used to putting the weight on them, putting the
Mm-hmm.
him. You know what I mean? And it's just
Right.
like, why are you putting a a sea of people on the shoulders of a man, a little
Over
man,
one man.
a man that's not
And
capable of
here's the thing.
parenting?
Here's the thing. For those of us who have been going through church trauma, because I've been working out my own salvation, and this is not, please, again, this is not be like me. I have moral issues. I every episode I'm gonna tell you all the garbage I do. I smoke weed, I curse, I watch porn, I do all this stuff. So please, before you come saying Christian's a hypocrite, yes, I'm guilty. I did it. I don't care. I
I
still
mean,
do it. Not even did it. I do it.
I'm
So this is not about me. This is not about me. This is not about my morality. This is simply about this. This is what I know. There is a verse that says God is close to the broken hearted.
that's the part.
God is close to the broken hearted. It is his kindness that leads to repentance. For
Yep.
those of us who are hurt, for those of us who have been through some stuff, listen, it's not God. It is a bad system.
Yep.
It's not
That,
God. It is the system that has been bestowed upon us. Blame the system. Don't blame God. Find who He is.
yep.
Take your anchor. Put your anchor in Him.
Yep.
I'm not going to tell you anything moral. I told you all the stuff I do. So this isn't even about that. This is about you finding your identity in Him, and
Yep.
everything else will have to work itself out.
That's
But I
the
know this: He's close to the brokenhearted.
yep.
Simple. Simple. I appreciate your time, me. I really do. I want you to, continue out there being a mom. I know you got mom stuff to handle. We've been talking for like an hour. I can keep going for another two. I know you can't. But I appreciate, man, you guys coming and listening to us talk about this. Again, please don't take this as bitterness. Please don't take this as us trying to tear down some ministry or some person. That's why we left names out. We
Yep.
just want to help people. That's it. That's it. We just want to help people. If you feel like you have something you want to talk about, again, my email's right up there. You can inbox me, whatever. I'm never gonna judge. There is nothing that I judge. And all we want, and I can say this for me or two because I know how hard it is. Also, is just for people to be helped and for people to be healed and for
Yep.
people to come to a wholeness. And that's only found in God. It's not found in us. It's not found in the pastor. It's not found in the ministry. I can say that.
Right.
And so again, I appreciate the time, Mia, again, and I appreciate you guys tuning in and listening. And be good. Peace out, y'all. Have a good night.